turn off your cameras if you don't want to be in the pictures. The chat will not be visible on the recording, so you can post questions in the chat, and Alicia will also add some comments to the chat if needed. And with that, I think that I've had all the, we will have questions and answers after the presentation session. Then we will stop recording, and then we can discuss the questions that you may have. So, just to repeat, my name is Gerdy Breenbroek, the lead of the TRI for heating and cooling. If you require any information about our activities or assistance, please use the email address here. It's tri4@setpartnership.eu. And Alicia, who is also visible, is managing this office. And we are there for efficient zero-emission heating and cooling solutions. So we contribute to the challenge 4 of the SRIA, the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. The overarching goal of this thematic part of our activity is the provision of enhanced and improved heating and cooling technologies and systems for all major parts of Europe by 2030 and enable 100% climate neutral heating and cooling by 2050. We are part of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, and the first couple of slides will introduce you quickly to the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. The Clean Energy Transition Partnership is a transnational initiative for clean energy. It's a collaboration of more than 15 national and regional research and demonstration program owners, development and innovation program owners and managers from more than 30 European and non-European countries. And what we do together is aligning our research and innovation priorities. We pool national budgets, so we bring together funding, and we launch joint calls annually until 2027. We have a website, and you can already see the draft call text for the 2023 call available there, and it has been available from the 5th of May onwards. So maybe you've already seen that call text that we're going to discuss in more detail now. We want to empower with the call, with all the topics, empower the clean energy transition and contribute to the EU's goal of becoming the first climate neutral continent by 2050 by pooling national and regional research, development and innovation funding. Our activity in the Clean Energy Transition Partnership is based on 15 years of transnational collaboration in 9 energy-relevant ERA-nets. And some of you will recognize some of these ERA-nets, for example, the concentrated solar power ERA-net, geothermica, smart energy systems. And these ERA-nets did exactly the same. They put national funding on the table to fund transnational projects. How did that work? And this is important to understand for all of us. National funding organizations put money on the table, and they want to fund transnational projects. On the top of this slide, you see the the collaboration in the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. On the bottom part, you see the funded projects. The Clean Energy Transition Partnership funding organizations make available funding, and national organizations in the funded project have a direct contact with their funding organizations to get their project funded. But the funding decision is made at the Clean Energy Transition Partnership level, because this funded transnational project can only be implemented if the funding agency in country A, country B, and country C participate. So it's national funding for national partners, but a transnational project, so it makes it possible for you as interested research organization or interested industry to reach out to partners at the other side of your country borders or your region borders to pull together a collaboration that builds on the strengths that you have together, build a transnational project that builds on your strengths, your combined strengths. And this project will be funded from the funding organizations in your country, in country B, and in country C. Back to how is the Clean Energy Transition Partnership organized? You are here at an event of the Transition Initiative 4. There are 7 transition initiatives, so we have 7 thematic areas that we're working on, not only heating and cooling, but also system level challenges and power generation, CCU as renewable fuels. And all these transition initiatives work in a similar way, and they define the scope of one or more core modules. The core modules are the topics of each annual joint call. And on this slide, you see the core modules for the call of 2023. Maybe you were aware that there was a pre-announcement event of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership that was organized on the 7th of June. If you go to the website of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, which is cetpartnership.eu, then you will find under events also a link back to that event, and you can see much more about the details of our organization and the details of our call. Today, we will be looking at the call modules or topics number 6, heating and cooling technologies, and number 7, geothermal energy technologies. But as you can see, there are 7 more. No, I make a mistake. There are 8 other core modules, and 2 of those core modules are split in 2 parts. The A and B part for the lower TRL projects versus the higher TRL projects. If you're interested in one of these other core modules, I would also recommend you very much to go to the Clean Energy Transition Partnership website and make yourself aware of what the other core modules, their description and potential events where they explain more about those core modules. As I said, we are here together today considering the core modules number 6 and number 7. Those are the 2 core modules that we as the thematic area heating and cooling have contributed to the call 2023. In general, for both modules, it is true that we encourage innovative entrepreneurs in small, medium-sized and large companies, research organizations and academia to propose. In a small number of partner countries, local and regional governments are also eligible for funding. We encourage a broad geographic spectrum, but each project consortium must demonstrate the alignment with the respective funding partner's national interest and demonstrate the applicant's competence to undertake the project-specified teams. And why is this in bold? This is because this funding partner's national interest is, of course, key in this collaboration as well. As you remember from that previous slide, your national or regional funding organization will fund your activities in a transnational setting. So you must align with national funding partners' perspectives. So please be aware of that, national or regional. We also we want this to have an impact, and therefore we encourage involvement of need owners. That means to say those stakeholders that need to use the solution that you are developing at the end of the day. And of course, relevant stakeholders from the national, regional innovation ecosystem in all project phases. And with that, I conclude the general part of this, and we move on to more detail about these core modules. As already mentioned, we will be discussing two core modules there. There is the heating and cooling technologies, which has the aim of providing enhanced and improved heating and cooling technologies and systems for all major parts, that means climate zones of Europe by 2030, and which enable 100% climate neutral heating and cooling by 2050. That's the number 6. And then we have the number 7 on geothermal energy technologies, which looks at developing a broad range of geothermal energy-related innovation, development, and research projects for heating and cooling, power generation, underground thermal energy storage, and the co-production of geothermal minerals. First, we are going to discuss the heating and cooling technologies, the number 6, and you will see that on the right-hand side of the slides, and then we will move on to the geothermal energy technologies. To number 6 then, the heating and cooling technologies. This is the picture that we think summarizes it all. And it also nicely shows where we're heading to. We're heading for acceleration of the heating and cooling transition. I go to the next slide because that slide presents in a bit more detail what the scope of the activity is. Here you can find, and this is a literal citation from the call text that you will find in the draft form on the website of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. The scope. The scope is everything connected to heating and cooling technologies. So not only the sources, but also the thermal storage, also the heating and cooling networks and the conversion technologies, and also the end-use systems. The heat and cold, your project can address any research and innovation on any of these topics. So there's no aim to encompass everything. This is only to show what will be will normally be eligible within the scope of this heating and cooling technologies call. We're looking at heat and cold sources, and then we're thinking about solar thermal. We're thinking about local and regional access resources. We're thinking about renewable cooling. We're thinking about concentrated solar for industrial thermal energy purposes. We're thinking about ambient heat and cold from the air, surface water, sewers, biomass and organic waste, and excess heat from industry. We need innovations there, of course. So if that's not what you're doing, it's not interesting. Innovations in getting access to these sources, producing or getting the heat or cold cheaper. That's that's within the scope of our work. Then thermal storage. New storage technologies and storage-related innovations aiming at, for example, small-scale hour-to-day thermal storage, both in industry and the built environment, smart systems balancing supply and demand, access power to thermal energy, seasonal thermal storage integrated into a building or a district heating and cooling system. Heating and cooling networks, conversion and integration, including innovations for more cost-efficient heating and/or cooling networks and their operation, retrofit of heating and/or cooling networks, which will be an important topic in some parts of Europe. Conversion technologies such as heat pumping technologies, both for the built environment and for industry. Then it can also be about end-use systems. Then we're looking at innovative distribution systems within the end-user system, for example. Then from the scope to the objective. The objective of successful projects developing technologies, methods, knowledge, or innovations should be the following. And we distinguish objectives for pilots and demos and objectives for applied research and development. For pilots and demos, the innovation must enable cost reduction and/or an increase in competitive market opportunities and/or an increase in environmental protection compared to state-of-the-art today. Innovations impacting societal acceptability, safety, or circularity are also within the scope. Pilots and demos are realized in the operational environment, that means in real life. For applied research and innovation, the aims are really similar, but we have added the word significant. So it's not cost reductions, but significant cost reductions. It's not increasing competitive market opportunities, but a significant increase in competitive market opportunities. These projects should be applied research, and these projects should have a valid proof of concept before starting and should typically develop the innovation in detail in a laboratory or similar environment. I move on to the next slide, which is about the complementarity. It's the full sentences that I'm reading out, and you can also read them, but it's important to realize that these cost reductions, these competitive market opportunities, or environmental protection levels, one of them can be sufficient to have a valid project. Projects combining several of them are, of course, very, very welcome, but it's important to see that these are all objectives that you can use to make it clear to us why your project is worth funding. This slide is about the complementarity, because there are some other coal modules that are complementary to this really broad module for heating and cooling. And this slide points out what the complementarity is. The topic of PV thermal, PVT, is covered in core module 3, which is a core module of the TRI2. Concentrated solar power is covered in that core module 3 as well, while concentrated solar for thermal applications in the industry is covered by this core module. Then we also have the geothermal energy technologies. They are covered in module 7. Then we have storage technologies, of course, that have a technology perspective. Those are invited to this core module, but the storage technologies, the storage to be integrated into the storage technologies with a focus on integration are covered in the core modules 8, 9, and 10, while the thermal storage technologies with a focus on the subsurface utilization are referred to core module 7, which is the core module on geothermal energy technologies, because the use of the subsurface creates a lot of similarities between geothermal production technologies and thermal storage technologies. In case of doubt, consult with your funding organization. Then the last slide for the core module 6 is on which funding agencies have already made it clear at this stage that they will be able to support projects in this area in core module 6. Those countries and organizations are listed. Yes, those countries and funding organizations are listed here. This is really important to understand that this list will be updated during the weeks to come. What we are now working on is making the decisions on the proposals of last year's call. And from these decisions, there will be some organizations that have additional budget that they might want to spend on this core module as well. So I expect additional organizations there. When you want to know more, keep an eye on this very important page that is visible here on this slide, the setpartnership.eu funding agencies and core modules. It gives a complete list of the funding organizations involved in the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, and it ticks the boxes where those funding organizations support the various core modules. This page will also give access to the national annexes or the regional annexes of the particular funding organizations. It's essential to review these national annexes carefully, because they set out the terms and conditions that your national organization will need you to comply with. And if you don't comply with those terms and conditions, you cannot be funded. So it's essential that you understand that your local funding organization is really an important partner here. As long I'm sure that these national annexes will also contain the address details or email addresses where you can reach your national or regional funding organization to make sure that you understand their terms and conditions well. Please, please be proactive with this because if you take yourself into a lot of work to formulate a transnational project and you haven't given sufficient attention to this from the start on, you might be in a difficult position. We now move to call module 7, which is on geothermal energy technologies. And this is a core module that is really a bit broader than heating and cooling alone. We have developed this in collaboration with the TRI on power generation, because power generation is one of the topics that is within the scope of this core module. This again summarizes the scope and the ambition of the core module. We want to accelerate geothermal energy technologies and implementation by this. We have selected for this year geothermal energy technologies because we know there's real needs for collaboration in this technology, also from previous experience with the geothermal AeroNet Geothermica. And I will now proceed to the scope of this call module, which is organized along the chain of the geothermal energy technologies, the development chain, that is. The geothermal energy technologies encompass technologies for using geothermal energy for heating and cooling, geothermal energy technologies for power generation, for thermal energy storage, and for co-production of geothermal, of co-production of minerals together with geothermal energy. When we're looking at the development chain, we see that that in all parts of that geothermal energy development chain, there's scope for innovation. There's scope for innovation for identifying and assessing geothermal and underground thermal energy storage resources, reserves, and reservoirs. Then we're talking about prospecting, exploration, modeling to assess the geothermal resources at all depth levels. Then we have the geothermal and underground thermal energy storage resource development. We're thinking there about drilling and well completion technologies, reservoir optimization, stimulation, and innovative systems to manage induced seismicity. Geothermal operation and integration into the energy system. Once you have realized your well, your geothermal doublet, you can start the operation and integration into the energy system. We're looking at innovative concepts with geothermal energy as part of the energy system, geothermal energy reservoirs for all these uses that I just mentioned, heating, cooling, storage, power cycles, additional side benefits from geothermal utilization, innovative applications in the built environment and industry, but also during operation, novel approaches to improve well injectivity, reliability, availability of injection operations, novel equipment, materials, and methods for lowering and optimizing operating expenses, smart reservoir management technologies, and approaches to managing induced seismicity during production. That's for the scope. Then if we go to the objectives, it is really a copy-paste of what we had in the heating and cooling solutions core module as well. So we're looking at enabling cost reduction or increasing competitive market opportunities or increasing environmental protection compared to state of the art today. We're also encouraging innovations that have an impact, a positive impact on societal acceptability, safety, or circularity. And we distinguish between pilots and demos and applied research and development. Where pilots and demos, where applied research and development, we envisage that those projects have a significant impact on cost reduction, competitive market opportunity, increasing competitive market opportunities, or increasing environmental protection. We expect projects to have a valid proof of concept before starting, and we would also like to see some proof of that in your project proposal. And those applied research and development projects typically develop the innovation in detail in a laboratory or similar environment. We go again to the complementarity. There is, of course, a complementarity between Module 7 and Module 6, where thermal storage with a focus on geological storage is covered in this core module. Core Module 6 focuses on the thermal storage technologies, and projects focusing on integration of geothermal energy and thermal storage in regional or industrial energy systems or the built environment are referred to the core modules 8, 9, and 10, which focus on regional energy systems, industrial energy systems, and the built environment, respectively. The core module 7, here we go again towards this important point that not all core modules are supported by all of the funding organizations, and that we are still in a point in time where additional funding organizations can come online for these core modules. So please stay tuned on the funding agencies and core modules page, where you can find the most recent information. And a very important part that you will also find there is the national annexes or the regional annexes of your funding organization. If, as you remember, your funding organization is subsidizing your part of the project, and you need to comply with national funding organizations' terms and conditions. So it's essential that you understand them, and all these national annexes will come online very soon on this page. So to mention some important points again, it's essential to consult this matrix that I just mentioned, core module versus funding organizations. You need to make sure that your funding organization is contributing or is open to fund activities in your core module. And there's an important note to that because some funding organizations have limited budgets, but they cover all 10 core modules. Don't misunderstand that. That doesn't mean to say that this organization divides their budget equally among those core modules. Most funding organizations that participate in the Clean Energy Transition Partnership that participate in most of the core modules have a generic budget, and this budget flows to those modules where there is the best projects are. So don't hesitate to ask more than 1/10 of what your funding organization has available, unless the funding organization's national annex tells you otherwise. But money can flow to the core modules with the best projects. And why wouldn't that be your project? I would say that's very that might very well be, don't you think? Consult that national annex. That's really important too. Contact the contact point from the national annex to discuss your project plan. If you don't have a name now, you might consult the 2022 annex called the 2022 call text as well. This was information that I added the day before yesterday, I think. Now my information is that these national annexes will come online very, very soon. So I would wait a couple of days and consult the 2023 national annex to find the right contact. And have your colleagues at your partner organization do the same, especially if you're the coordinator. Make sure that your partner organizations also understand that they need to be in line with their national funding organizations rules. Well, this is you'll find the core modules, the national annexes, and the matrix in the call text on the SET Partnership website. This is a bit outdated, escaped my notice. The website is complete. If you go to the call 2023 tab on the website, you will find the call documents, which are international call documents, and you will find the funding agencies and core modules page. And that information combined is all the information that you need. What we have been discussing here is the core modules, the SET partnership, and the national and regional annexes and the importance of this. What we haven't discussed in so much detail, but what has been discussed on the 7th of June at our pre-announcement event is the generic requirements. These are, for example, the fact that an eligible project needs to have 3 partners from 3 applying for funding with 3 different funding organizations. So this information has been presented at the webinar on the 7th of June. I think that Alicia was planning to put the link to the results of that webinar in the chat. And there's also this recording, and I would recommend you to, if you want a quick and instructive go through the general requirements, then I would propose to go to the minute 20 when Maria Enge from Coal Management, she is explaining that really clearly. I would also recommend you to visit national and regional webinars if organized. You can find that information on the Clean Energy Transition Partnership site as well. And to set the timeline, the 22nd of November 2023, you need to submit your pre-proposal. The next slide shows the timeline related to the call 2023. We're here at the Heating and Cooling Call Info webinar on the 15th of June. We will have a call launch in September, as well as the opening for the pre-proposal submission in September. You can register on our website. Please do so. Be there. You will be updated with the last information. And at the same time, don't wait because there's little time between now and the 22nd of November if you want to build a successful consortium. Through the link of this webinar, this pre-announcement webinar that we had last week, you will also come to the B2Match platform, and Alicia, she will be introducing this to you. Of course, you don't need to use the platform if you have your own network that is relevant for your development. So you really don't need to use the B2Match platform if you have your own network. You can use the B2Match platform though to expand your consortium. That is so I would really recommend you to go there, but Alicia will show this in will tell a bit more detail about this shortly. Then I think I'm there really, so I give the floor to Alicia then.
Thank you, Gerdy. I will share with you now the link to the B2Match. You can go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
And B2Match is B2Match is the platform where we encourage all of you as a participants to find the consortium members if you haven't had so within your own network. It is we already have there over 700 different participants registered, and you can find information and on the relevant different TRIs and interested parties. There are as well the events which can be which you can online register. And for that purpose, there is a bit of a signing and the registration information needed from your perspective to give a little bit info on what is your proposal about, what's your interest, and then as well, the data there is easily searchable. So we encourage all of you, especially that we know that the consortium needs to be involving a few countries. So it is easy, as you can see here on the right side, there we have participants. You can just click into different countries and go directly to the list of interested people within that new joint call 2023. The link is already in the chat, so we encourage you to join afterwards. And the details on the events which already have been taken, like pre-announcement event or TRI4 event, I know that TRI2 had as well events, and other ones, national events, are as well announced there. So everything is connected in one spot for your easy access. Thank you.
Then we are at the questions and answers session. We will now stop recording, and I will also stop sharing my screen and invite people to